In July 2018, Android accounted for 77.32% of the global operating system market. 4 years later, in January 2022, that percentage fell to 69.74%. Over the same 4-year period, iOS gained global populace by a 6% increase rate from 19.4% to 25.49%. So here's some features that have appeared on both Android and iOS in one form or another. Widgets. To start it off, widgets are one of Android's main features and has allowed its users to break the screen into organized rows and columns, which come in different rectangular and square shapes of app icons with music players, social media apps, weather forecasts, calendar, and more. iOS is also coming through with the widgets on their upcoming iPhone 14. How interesting is this? Well, don't go anywhere moving forward. I will let you in on more exciting features on both operating systems that you don't have to worry which operating system your phone runs on. Fast sharing feature. Also, just like the AirDrop sharing feature in iOS, Google is also adding a fast share feature on its Android devices that will perform just like the AirDrop in Apple. The feature will have a combo of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth working alongside to transfer files, text, and others to people nearby. There will, however, be a distinction. The transfer functionality, unlike AirDrop, will not be limited to your contact list and device. You will be able to share files with anyone who has a Chromebook, an iOS smartphone, or an Android OS smartwatch. So when if your friend's phone died at a party, for example, and you took pictures of them, sharing it is fast and easy with the AirDrop and Fast Share feature on both operating systems. App Library. Here Apple calls it an app library. Android calls it an app drawer. And like all app drawers, it gives you a list of all the apps you have installed on your phone. But Apple's spin on it is that it automatically puts them into groups, such as social and entertainment like many Android launchers. But it's essentially just an app drawer. And it is a good thing that for a long time, iOS has lacked an app drawer. In fact, another app library feature sounds all too familiar. Previously, every app you installed on an iOS device resided on the home screen, and the only way to hide it was to bury it in a folder. Android users, on the other hand, have been able to keep their home screens uncluttered by hiding apps in the app drawer, which is just one tap away from the home screen, which Apple has now taken upon as a good idea. It will be called App Library and will premiere the upcoming iOS 14, which displays dynamically suggested apps based on your usage. These are the apps you're most likely to use, and the suggestions change depending on the time of day. This function first appeared on Android with the Pixel launcher, which is found on Google's Pixel smartphones and is now available for iPhones running iOS 14. An app library that makes it easy for you to group your apps. How about a digital assistant that helps you manage your tasks? We will discuss this later in the video. Before we continue, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel below. That way you can get all the interesting and valuable information on tech and tech gadgets. Picture-in-picture. Another feature is the picture-in-picture, which is exactly what it sounds like, is another feature coming to the iPhone with iOS 14, which has been available on Android since 2017. Thanks to the upcoming iOS 14, the picture-in-picture mode, which Apple first introduced on tvOS and iPadOS, is now available on iPhones. With the picture-in-picture feature on Android, iOS, or iPadOS, it is as simple as starting a video and returning to the home screen with a swipe up from the bottom of the screen. For Apple's platforms, just tap the picture-in-picture button, which is represented by two squares with an arrow inside one of them, and when you exit the app, playback continues in a small window on the screen. And for Android devices, tap on the video window to expand or shrink it. You can also tap and hold to reposition it on screen. When you tap on a video, pause and playback controls will also appear briefly. The picture-in-picture window in iOS 14 can be moved around the screen regardless of which app you're using, and it also appears on the home screen. Thus, on both Android and iOS, the picture-in-picture mode functions similarly. Facial recognition. The ability to unlock devices and apps using facial recognition, or Face ID, is another feature introduced by Apple. A concept of scanning faces for authentication purposes is now widely used in Android devices too. Smart Assistant. Again, Apple was the first to adopt a digital assistant, Siri, and incorporating it into the iPhone 4s in 2011. After some months, Google released Android 4.1 Jelly Bean, which over the years has evolved into Google Assistant. There is a newly redesigned, compact UI for Apple's Siri. However, there are differences in details like animations and other aesthetic choices. Apple claims that the new interface will allow you to refer to on-screen information contextually in a compact layout that will not distract you from the contents of your screen. But it's impossible to look at the design and not notice the Google Assistant overlay, especially the new version that came with Google's Pixel 4. These are both similar. In other words, users of both Google Assistant and Siri should feel right at home. Emoji. And finally, inside iOS 14's Keyboard app, Apple has added a search interface for finding emojis. This feature is also applicable on Android. In fact, for years, the emoji finding feature has been part of the Gboard app on Android, and Apple may have taken a cue from Google for its iOS 14 and iPadOS 14. So there you have it. What do you think about both operating systems copying inspiration off each other? Comment and let us know which one you think is doing better. Thanks for watching. Bye.